The world is saved. The living room's dark, save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, Dr. Witt.
Hi, Mr. Lyons. How's it going?
Bad, dude. Bad.
This is not good.
This last couple weeks, I drank a potion.
Yep.
I blacked out for a while, and then when I woke up, I was playing this game.
Yeah. No. So on a scale of Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde, right? I mean,
like a meter. Like if there was a meter.
Yeah, if there was. but where it looked like instead of saying like H and J, it looked like almost like a W, because the filigree is so weird and in such poor resolution that it actually took me a minute to realize what that was.
Yeah, it really does look like a W.
Right? I mean, I was able to intuit what it was, but yeah. So we played.
I don't think it actually has the full title. It's just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Because the book is The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I think the game is just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're really bad about burying the lead anyways, but I mean, it's going to come out that this is, and to be fair, this game it's like, if somebody queued up this episode and it was Superman 64, like nobody be like, oh man, I wonder if they liked it. I mean, Superman 64 is famously bad. This game is famously bad, but you know what's coming up? Halloween, man. And we wanted to play a scary game. And this game is both scary thematically and scary bad. So it's twice the scary.
I don't know why, but this year, for the first time, I've suddenly noticed people using spooky as a way to do like silly skeletons and like vampires and like, but not scary, right? Not horror, but like spooky, like Halloween fun. I was like, oh man, have I been just lacking the vocabulary to describe? Like, I like things that are spooky. I don't really like horror, right? Like I can get into horror sometimes, but I was like, man, how am I just now learning that this word can be used in this way? Like this is a useful bit of language.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of like, I mean, language in and of itself is kind of lacking, but it's I don't know if it's a newer word. I know I've used it a lot, but it's because my son gets scared relatively easily. So when we point out Halloween stuff, we don't want to say like, look at the scary Halloween stuff. We say like, ooh, look, it's spooky. And he's like, and he loves spooky stuff, but he doesn't like scary stuff. So yeah, like spooky is kind of a word that we've used a lot, but I'm not sure if it's
the softer side of Sears.
Yeah, exactly. This game was scary.
Yeah. So do you have a nostalgia experience for this? Because I suspect we actually have the same nostalgia experience for this.
My nostalgia experience for this is Ego Raptor.
Yeah, Ego Raptor and also the Angry Video Game Nerd. Very famous. In fact, I think Ego Raptor refers to the Angry Video Game Nerd having talked about this game. But these are all fancy ways of saying like, just like Superman 64, this game is famously bad, right? It's notorious. Right. So, don't bother jumping to the end of the episode. Like, what we're going to say about it, but like what matters is why, like what is wrong with it? Why is it famously bad? But I'm always fascinated by a nostalgia experience that is like cultural, like osmosis, where you're like, oh, I haven't played this, but like I'll recognize it when I see it. I'll know the sounds when I hear them. Like you've been exposed to a thing so much that you're just like, oh yeah, I guess I haven't actually played that game, seen that movie, read that book, whatever, right? Like a lot of people who get Godfather references who've never seen The Godfather, right? Like there's a really good chance if you know anything about video games, you will have some exposure to this game, even if you've never actually put your hands on it. So that's, I don't know, it's like an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, no, this is very much so like a game that is often, just like Superman 64, it is often touted as being so it's like perfectly bad in the sense of, you know what I'm saying, where it's distilled awfulness. So it's so concentrated that it's used as a teaching tool, right? Where it says like, don't do this thing. It ends really, really poorly, like, I mean, even in certain historical lessons where you say like, don't do thing A because as you can see from this terrible historical event, like it goes really poorly. So we should not repeat that. And so just like with history, it is incumbent upon people who, do video game reviews to go and look at some of the awful exemplars so that way what not to do in addition of what to do. So, but no, I was fortunate to never have played this game as a child. I honestly don't know if I had played it when I was younger. If I would have understood that it was awful, I probably would have just gotten bored with it, and just put it down.
No,
and not
I
pick
could
it
agree
back
with
up.
that. Yeah.
Because it's not even good enough to where I could get frustrated with it, like as a child, right? Like I would just be like, I don't get it. And then I would have just put it down and then it would have just been in my library,
And then there it would have sat. Before we jump into visuals, I want to thank new Twitter people, new Patreon supporters, new Twitch people. I'm going to do a rare actually putting links in the show notes because my entire playthrough of this game was on Twitch, and I don't ever plan to touch this game ever again. So if you want to see 100% of my exposure to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, there'll be a link to the video as well as a much shorter clip that sums up my experience with the game that I will actually link in the show notes. And then you can follow me if you want to see more nonsense like that. But with that, I think, are we ready for visuals?
Let's do it. So visuals for the sake of visuals, as far as how does the game look, honestly, the game doesn't look that bad.
Does not look that bad.
No, I mean, it's if you took a screenshot of it, it actually looks really solid, from my seat at least, is that, like if I were to see that, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's an NES game. All right, man. They've got some, I would say it is equivalent just from the pure like screen capture visual. It's probably equivalent to like Simon's Quest, It
really has a Simon's Questy kind of feel. The town, right. The buildings, they're straight on. The characters are all like human proportions, right? Nothing's very cartoony. It's all like an attempt at realism. Yeah, it's weird how like vaguely not bad they are. They're not great. You're not like blown away, but you're like, oh, look, it looks like a above average NES game.
Yep. And then that's all the nice things I have to say. Like I'm out. Because I mean, the thing is that again, the game looks at surface level, it looks fine. It looks like a game, but then it's kind of like it would be the equivalent of saying, these text letters, I can make out all of these text letters. Like the handwriting of this novel is good, but then it just is Diaries of a Madman all the way down, where it's not even...
Diarrhea is actually part of the visuals.
It is. But so this is something that we had discussed, which is that, so that's visuals for the sake of visuals. Not too bad, right? Visuals, as far as they service gameplay, which we kind of said this is going to be the theme throughout this episode, right? Which is visuals as they service gameplay. One of the main ways that visuals service gameplay is through conveyance, right? So letting you know what it is you're supposed to be doing. And top to bottom, this game fails perfectly, completely. I mean, like it's kind of like I forget the name of the game, but it's kind of like in a game how there are gimme points and then marginal points, So like just by virtue of playing the game, you're going to get like 50 points. You would have to, and literally in most games, you would be hard pressed to get less than that, right? This game actually gets like it's like playing Ticket to Ride and getting 0 points. Like you have to make an effort to do that. Like this, and this game, to be fair, they put in the effort, man.
It shows. It really hard work.
It really does. Like it's hard to have zero conveyance, but they did it. There is no visual in here that tells you anything about what the game's goals are, motives are, what it is that you're trying to do, or how the game is played.
I would even go so far as to say that bad conveyance would be, or like no conveyance would be, oh, the game's not telling me what I'm supposed to do. What do I care about? What do I avoid? What's good? What's bad? You actually get clashing information, right? Because you might argue in Tetris, right, that they don't really tell you what to do. Like blocks just start falling, and then if you make a full line, because humans love a pattern, right? So if you make a full line and it flashes and disappears, one could even go so far as to say like, oh God, did I want that? Like, did I destroy it? But then you see your score go up, and a score is pretty universally understood to be a good thing, right? In this game, when you're Jekyll, right? Because there's the Jekyll side and the Hyde side. When you're Jekyll, humans hurt you if they're moving fast, and any human is capable of moving fast. So any human can hurt you, except the kid only moves fast and he never hurts you except when he shoots you with his slingshot. And the bomb guy, there's a bomb guy. He never moves fast, but always hurts you because he drops the bomb, right? So the F bomb.
Well,
so
and the dogs move fast and they hurt you, but they don't actually hurt you. They don't actually take life. They just reduce your Jekyll and Hyde meter.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the cats also only hurt you when they're moving fast, but they like it. This is my point. My point is you're getting so much clashing information. Like, do humans hurt you or not? Do fast moving things hurt you or not? Do other people in the town hurt you or not? Do you have a way to defend yourself? And the answer is, well, sometimes. You know what it is? It's like the friggin' rules of spelling for the English language. It's like, oh, what sound does this letter make? And it's like, let me tell you a tale, because it makes all different sounds in all different circumstances, and you're just going to have to memorize them all. So like I eventually teased out most, I think, of the rules for when people hurt you and what things in the environment hurt you, but it's not obvious, right? It's not just no conveyance, bad conveyance, because you're getting clashing information. At least when you're Hyde, everything hurts you. If it's moving, it hurts you. All of the sprites hurt you. There is nothing good in the Hyde levels.
So this is where I want to kind of share my little headcanon, which we're interested to see, because we haven't discussed it, but if it's similar to your headcanon, which is that so I was playing this game, and basically, like you said, is that there's no HUD, there's no, except when there is, there is a HUD, but like it gives you a whole bunch of like weird information, and I don't really know what the Hyde meter was, but then sometimes you get coins and sometimes you don't, right? You know? And so I'm sitting there like trying to figure out what's going on. I was like, okay, all right, I'm an adult, right? And more importantly, I'm a scientist, right? So I can do this, right? So I started doing exactly what you said you did, which was I started like basically mentally logging all of these different things and trying desperately to tease out what the, like how to do this, right? And as I kept getting more and more conflicting information, and the visuals were just not helping at all, and it was getting more and more complex. Literally, I was going through at one point, and I was and then like all of a sudden, a guy put a bomb in a place. And I was like, okay, but then a bird dropped the poop on me in such a way that like I couldn't get around it, and I didn't know what to do. So and then if you get hit by that bomb, you basically immediately become Mr. Hyde. So that happened to me 3 times successively in the middle of me trying to do this, and I said literally out loud, "Are you serious?" Right, like in my house loudly while my children were awake, and then all of a sudden it hit me, which is that I started as Dr. Jekyll, and then the game made me Mr. Hyde. So
the game is the potion.
The game is the potion, right? And that's where the real horror is, right? and I want to believe, I totally don't think this is true, but I want to believe that that's what they wanted to do, is they were like, let's make a game that literally induces madness in the player by really making them think it's a game, but it's not a game. It's a potion. And so that's my headcanon with how awful the visuals are.
So, you're probably right, for one. For another, I'm delighted to say we have two different headcanons, so I get to, share my story with you.
Awesome.
And third, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you because good ideas can happen, in isolation. But what you just described is very similar to how the Angry Video Game Nerds video ends. Is he basically has like a mental breakdown and is like, wait a minute, maybe the whole thing is trying to show me that like we all have Hyde in us, and he does a big ridiculous super over the top explanation, and then he's like, or maybe the game just sucks.
Yeah, so great minds think alike, and fortunately I'd seen the Eagle Raptor one. I have not seen the Angry Video Game Nerd one, so I'm definitely not played.
No, I know you. Yeah. What do you call that? When like two different scientists on opposite side of the world like have the same discovery.
Yeah, I forget what that's called off the top of my head, but yeah,
there's a thing. So I might as well just go into my headcanon now since we're doing the headcanon hour. So what I realized is still in the game, right? So in the game universe is that Dr. Jekyll is actually dead. But he's in denial that he has died. So when he's walking through town as Dr. Jekyll, everything looks the way he imagines that it looks. But that's why every single dog tries to kill you. People randomly attack you. There's a psychopath leaving bombs around, but nobody seems to notice or care. Every child is trying to, they're all the same kid, but every kid is trying to murder you. Every bird wants to hit on you. Every cat is trying to claw your eyes out. Like, the reason that that's all happening and that everyone seems totally fine with it is kind of like Inception, right? Like the subconscious knows that you don't belong there, and so they've all turned on you, but they're not your subconscious, they're demons. And when you collapse and it just says meter in the UI, which I hate because I was calling it sanity, and apparently in the manual they call it stress, but it's totally your sanity meter, because when your sanity collapses and you get back up as Hyde, now you're seeing the world as it really is because you are in hell. That's why there's demons. That's why all the buildings are destroyed. That's why you get struck by lightning and there's floating virus blobs and stuff. Like, because that's what reality is for Dr. Jekyll, because Dr. Jekyll is Dr. Dead. So it doesn't make the game any better. Like, that headcanon didn't help me enjoy it in the slightest, but I was like, this at least explains what I'm seeing on the screen and like what is happening. Because why does every woman in Victorian London hate me so much?
Yeah, the only other thing that I could think to that is that it's like Dr. Jekyll is not like he is he's always angry, right? Is that he's actually perpetually losing, like on the edge of losing his mind. So like that sanity meter, we think it's like from, sane to insane, but really it's, like if 100 is sane, right, and 0 is insane, really it's from 1 to 0, like it's
so it's percent insane.
Yeah, where it's like, well, it's just you're already 99% insane, but what they're measuring is that remaining little sliver that you're losing. So the women don't hurt you; you just feel that they've hurt you, right? The guy's not leaving a bomb, he just walked by you and then shot you an awkward glance, which just completely enraged you, right? The kid's not shooting his slingshot at you; you're just imagining him shooting his slingshot at you. Dogs don't hurt you; birds aren't crapping on you. You just imagine that all of this horrible crap is happening, and then when all of that happens, like when you snap, then all of a sudden, like the world goes black, and then you go on a rage bender. Or even better, to merge our two ideas, is that stresses you out so much that you die of like a heart attack, and then you actually do go to hell.
Yeah, so it's just like a Constantine kind of.
Dr. Jekyll, the one soul that they knew the devil himself would come there to grab, right?
So I want to make sure I don't forget to mention this is two important things about the visuals when you're Hyde. One, the demon monster, I'm going to call them demons. The demons, actually, I think on the box it calls them demons. The demons look pretty cool, for one. And I like that you can, like interact with them like enemies in a video game, right? So that just tiny bit of consistency makes the time you have to play as Hyde, because you don't want to play as Hyde, right? That means you've failed, right? So it's like that puts you on the failure spectrum.
Do we know what happens if, because I don't, do we know what happens if you get your sanity meter all the way back up? Do you turn back into Dr. Jekyll?
You do.
Okay. That's what I kind of thought would happen, but I mean, I could never, the hitbox is such top to bottom hot garbage as Hyde, that I was never able to actually hit enough people to restore my sanity.
And we'll get to that in mechanics, but I do tremendously appreciate that, at least in the Hyde levels, it's like all the other sprites are enemies, just like in a lot of, simple platformers from the NES era, and you can attack them and your attacks actually do something. And then you have like a goal, right? And it's doubly maddening that it's like, oh, I have a clear objective when I've gone insane and everything is demons. Like, why did things have to get that bad for me to have like any kind of, clarity on the world? But there's a much clearer set of goals and objectives that the visuals communicate, which is protagonist, everything else, antagonist, kill everything else. And so that's something.
Yeah, it's something. I think too, as we're talking about the visuals, is so obviously, you have the 7 core aesthetics, right? In many games of this era, and certainly in this game, narrative is not one of them. Like you're not.
Which is sad since it's based on a famous book.
Yeah, based off of a famous narrative. But that being said, is that even games that are all challenge based, which this one would seem to be, typically give you some reason for why you are testing your abilities, right? And that can very easily be afforded to you, quickly and visually. Like take the Mario games, right? Not a ton of exposition dump or anything like that. You just get a little cutscene in the beginning where Bowser snatches up Princess Peach and then flies away, and you're like, okay, that's what I'm up to. That's why I'm doing all the things I'm doing. None of that, man. Like I don't, and even the reason why I bring this up in the visuals is because that could inform how I'm interacting with the game. So if I'm Dr. Jekyll and I'm trying to, save my lab assistant from some horrible, cartel or something like that, I don't know, right? Then I would know to be on the lookout for, people who may be, quote, in disguise, So all of a sudden, all of these humans, I could reasonably see them as enemies. I should probably be able to do something other than just jump over them or shiv them. But that being said, it would inform that. But because there is absolutely nothing that gives you any kind of narrative here, the visuals become even more starkly cluttered because I don't know why any of this is happening. Like, as you said, why are the dogs attacking me? Did I drink my Hyde potion and now all of a sudden I'm just trying to get out of town before I'm murdered by all of the townspeople? Like that would now make sense. Why I need to avoid basically everything that's moving. Why people are throwing bombs at me. But without that, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So
you have to, without any narrative or without anything to extrapolate from, I think you kind of revert back to extrapolating from like anything else in your life experience. And so this is a realistic looking human man who's in a realistic looking town, who's walking through town, and people are just randomly attacking you, which doesn't happen in real life. People don't just leave Acme-sized bombs on the street. Every bird doesn't chase you around pooping dog turds on you. Like there's
large dog turds, like really enormous. I mean, like after 3 of those turds, those birds would cease to exist. They would have excreted their entire mass.
Yeah.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing in the visuals that helps you understand how the world should be behaving, because it's not behaving the way it looks. And they didn't tell you like, oh, the townspeople are out to get you. And it's like, oh, the townspeople are out to get me. Or like, oh, you're this is the middle of the story where you've woken up as Jekyll, but you've spent several nights as Hyde, and Hyde's a real tool. And so everybody's super mad at you, right? Because they think Hyde is like your friend, or they know you're Hyde or something. I mean, God, just like 2 sentences on the opening screen. That's just like, everybody's pissed at you. Like, would you just be enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if it was just, a picture of him waking up and being like, where am I? And it's like, oh, you don't know? Everyone's mad. And it's like, okay, so the entire world's turned on me. And even that would make sense then, because it would make sense why you revert back to Mr. Hyde, because I could even see like I wouldn't want this blurb on the screen, but if it was like, everyone's turned on you because you've been a huge tool these last few days as Mr. Hyde, whatever Hyde got up to, right? And so you're like, I just need to get out of here, right? And so you're trying to get out, and everybody's like beating the mess out of you, and you're like, fine, you want to see Hyde? Here's Hyde. I mean, like, you could get into that, but it's got none of that. Speaking of the bomb guy, and this is a minor note in all of it,
he's wearing a pimp suit.
Yeah. Did not notice that. Was too busy dealing with the radius on the bomb being nondescript and enormous.
No, the radius on the bomb, I could tell you exactly how big it is down to the pixel. The entire screen, except when they don't want it to be. That's the size of the bomb.
I can tell you the approximate size in the bomb of units time, which is that it is the amount of time that when it is placed, which is always placed exactly where you are, it is the amount of time it takes for you to move nonstop away from it.
Yeah, there's no time for a spit take or the big wolf pop out eyes where you're like, oh no, like if you don't know that the bomb is going to drop and you keep walking, you're going to get hit by the blast.
Correct. Yeah. Or if, like for a bird to poop on you, which was one of the things that gated me for a while, was the fact that I was trying to get away from a bomb and get pooped on at the same time, and I couldn't or dodge the poop. And so like it would just require me to like stop still for like 2 seconds, but that then put me into the radius of the bomb. All of that's bad. But the thing that I just don't understand though is the bomb's visual blast is the size of the bomb, which is the size of like your character. So approximately the bomb's radius is like 4 character widths. The bomb's visual explosion is 1 character width. There's no real way for you to know whether or not you're outside of this bomb's explosion, which hilariously is actually pretty realistic because the explosion itself isn't what kills you. It's the disruptive force of the air compressing and expanding that can actually kill you. So that makes real world sense, but it doesn't make for a great game. What's it called? There's a great word for it. Oh, total body disruption. That is when you are standing close enough to a bomb that like, because when they're like, oh, we jumped away from it, right? Mm-hmm. Is that if the bomb goes off and the bomb is intense enough, it compresses and expands the air so much that it still pink mists you. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's happening, but I need the visual so I can plan around it.
Yeah, you're a video game where I fight demons. You can make your giant, perfectly round black Acme bomb have a slightly visual blast radius.
Yeah, especially considering that it is far and away the most dangerous thing in the levels that I played. I mean, dude, and it basically one-shots you.
Well, and it one-shots you, except when it doesn't. And so this is the last mechanical thing I'm going to shove into visuals, but it's so we talked about this off air. Like it's just so hard to explain what's wrong with all the visuals without their mechanical implications because the mechanics are so broken. So you have 3 things in your HUD. You have a life meter, you have a meter, and you have a black area that just has the heading coin. So your life meter is your health. Your meter, what I was calling your sanity meter, is what, when it goes all the way down, you turn into Hyde. When you're Hyde and you fill it all the way back up, you turn into Jekyll. While you are Hyde, you can collect coins, but you can only...
Which you can trade to Cadget for wares.
That's right. But you...
That's 2 episodes in a row I've gotten to make that joke. I'm really excited about that.
That's true. But you can only use the coins when you're Jekyll. So these are the parts of your HUD, and what they unfortunately don't bother to have any consistency around at all is when you get hit by something, is it going to drain life? Is it going to drain sanity? Is it going to drain both? And by how much? Because near as I could tell, and I did not do an exhaustive test on this because then I would have drained my sanity, but near as I could
become Mr. Hyde, like the game wanted you to.
Like it was always meant to be. Near as I could tell, everything can drain life and sanity. Most things only drain sanity, but the bomb can absolutely do both. And here's the weird thing about that. There's a cool little animation that plays when your sanity meter goes all the way down where you like drop to your knees and like grab your head and do the like, I'm changing. It's actually a pretty cool little animation, right? And then everything fades to black, and then it fades back into the Hyde world, and you get up and you're like, rawr, I'm Hyde now, right? Well, the way they wrote the code is it checks your sanity meter before your health. And it executes the resolution of you turning into Hyde before it runs any other checks. So if you are low on health and you get set up the bomb and you lose all of your sanity and all of your health, you have to watch the entire transformation animation only to then immediately die as Hyde.
Yep. Yeah, no, I did not know that. That is hilarious.
And it's like, I wanted to include this in visuals because it's a long animation when you know you're going to die when it's over, right? It's not like in Mario where it's like do 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 do, and then you're back in the game. It's like this long, like you're gonna die, 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 you're gonna die. Hey, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Fade to black. Hey, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. Okay, you're dead.
It's like when the animation starts playing, it's like, stop, he's already dead, you know?
It is. It's just a slap in the face at that point. It's just like, no, Jekyll never dies. Hyde dies. And you're going to watch Hyde die.
The one other minor visual note that I have, which is that this suffers from what I have now started calling Home Alone visuals, which is to say that it is impossible to tell what is in the foreground and what's in the foreground, what's in your plane, and what's in the background. And also, too, this becomes particularly bizarrely like comes into focus when they have these little white walls, right, that you can jump on. But then, and you have no other option, right? So this is a flat surface that you walk upon, right? But then bad guys move underneath it. So I was like, well, then I've got to, if bad guys can be there, I've got to be able to get there. And the answer is no, that you can't, which in and of itself, I could emotionally deal with that, right? Where it broke down for me was Bomb Guy, it will get down into that area. Like he walks across the area that you cannot get to, and he plants his bombs where you cannot get to them or be touched by them. So, like, why does that happen? You know, like he will go and plant a bomb, and if you stand directly vertically above that bomb, it won't hurt you because you're too far away from it. So
you know what this is? This is evidence for your theory, because it's not there to cause damage to Jekyll. It's there to cause damage to you.
Yes. And that's, yeah. And then we'll get more into that in mechanics, because there's a way to play this game that works for just long enough to make you think it's going to keep working. And then it stops working. I'm telling you, dude, it's perfectly crafted to make you question your own reality. It's crazy. It's like they were sitting there and they were looking at the potion and they were like, this is the moment. This is the day. And but the potion, they were going to give it to someone else, you know? Anything else for visuals?
I just have a couple of throwaways I wanted to make sure I got in there. Jekyll has a duck animation that, near as I can tell, is completely pointless. Like, I literally don't know why they programmed it into the game. The pattern that the Psycho Wave Dr. Hyde fires moves in is way too visually quick to easily tell that it's a figure 8. You have to do that through trial and error, and that's annoying. And the people in town, when you're Jekyll, they move, you know, they only hurt you when they move faster. They don't have a different animation. They just run
Move
the walking
faster.
animation double time, and that's lazy.
Yeah, it is lazy, and there's no telegraph for when they're going to start doing it. They just start doing it, which
and
again,
they immediately stop, which immediately makes them stop hurting you. So if someone grinds to a halt right in front of you and you jump needlessly, you may collide with another obstacle like a bird poop because you were trying to avoid this, Victorian lady running into you.
Yeah, which is also bizarre because when they do move at double time, you move at the speed at which they normally walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because it's not like a running animation, to me, it smacks of like Dragon Ball Z, like super speed, So it's like you're just sitting there walking, and all of a sudden, somebody starts moving really fast at you, and you're like, you're like, no, can't stop. And then they just stop in front of your face, and like, hey. And then they just keep walking, and you're like, did they just want to know that they had the shot? Is that what they wanted me to know? It's bad. It's bad game. All right. Visuals down. move along. Audio. So, I don't remember what the music sounded like. I've got one audio note, which is there are so many sound effects. They are all unpleasant, and and they're all kind of happening all the time. Now they're all to let you know that something that so normally me, like I like audio cues and audio that helps service gameplay, especially if you've got a cluttered visual, a cluttered UI or something like that, where something auditorially can let me know that something's going on. So everything
Orally.
that
Orally.
Oh really? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
I'm not making it. Oh really? Yeah. Something orally lets you know what's about to happen. Yeah, I like that. But the problem is that there are so many things that can hurt you in this game. They all happen very, very quickly, and they all have their own sound effects. So basically, it's just the everything's okay alarm. Like this will continue to sound as long as everything's okay. So there's constantly the and I'm like, just stop, just all of it. All of it's got to stop because I get it. There's lots of things that can hurt me probably at all times. Like just you got to stop, which again, telling you, drives you a little insane.
A lot insane. So I agree with your sentiment that there is just a cacophony of sound effects happening all the time. I actually don't think the individual sound effects are that poorly designed, but it doesn't, like, if you make an average or even an above average sound effect that it's like, oh, this will tell you when, the bomb explodes. This will tell you when the bird is crapping on you. If you play that 100,000 times while a billion other sounds are happening, now it's different, right? Because the NES had a really limited sound palette. And more importantly, it has, as I've mentioned 1,000 times, a limit on how many sounds it can be playing at once. So the music in the background of this game is actually rather pleasant. I wish there was more than a music, but there is a music that's actually rather pleasant. There's a Jekyll music and a Hyde music, and they're both not bad little songs, but that's it. There's just literally the one. You don't have to hear it all that much though, because it's constantly being drowned out by just, right? And I will say the cat noise. Did you get to the part where the cat freaks out?
Yeah, that's awful, dude.
That one, that's some poor sound design because the individual sound effect is horrible and they play it on this crazy fast loop. Like that one's bad. That's bad sound design.
It's bad. It's bad sound design. It's bad sound design in any game. You'll get free pass. You got to roll 3 times. Yeah, no, it is. And kind of like I said, it's just that to me, it's like saying, it doesn't matter whether the ice cream is really, really good or really, really bad, or whether these olives are from Greece or from Joe's Pizza Place. When you swirl them all together and you just keep throwing olives into the ice cream, it becomes a mess, So, I mean, to be fair, I will be honest, I did not really try to try to distill out each sound effect. I was like, nope, don't like this, don't like any of this. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that literally when I've always said, I like it when video games have audio cues that let you know when there's something that's going to hurt you. There was some game designer with a time machine apparently saying like, oh, you like donuts, eh? Well, here, have all of the donuts in the world. It was that. I was like, not like this. Not like this.
No, you're like I said, the most generous compliment is in isolation, these are not ear weapons, right? But that you don't hear them in isolation. You hear them in the game, and in the game, they're way too repetitive, right? One sound being played over and over and over, and multiple everything's okay alarms going off all the time. Right? Did you get to any of the women singing?
No, I could not get past the graveyard stage. I got so close once. But
I could taste it.
It was, but it, and that to me was the worst part. It was the last thing out of Pandora's box, which was Hope, which drove me more insane because I went through that level and I failed once at about the midpoint, and then again at about the midpoint, and then again about 3/4 of the way through, and then like what I assume is 90% of the way through the level, and I was like, oh yeah, and then got 10%, 10%, 10%, 20%, 10%, 10%. And I said, I am done because I was like, how is this happening to me? So, and that actually strays in the gameplay, but do your...
So I'll say this last thing about the lady singing. So there's a lady singing, and this is actually as good a segue as any into mechanics because little pink music notes go flying out of her. And if they hit you, they hurt you because she's singing. This is literally how it describes it in the manual. She is singing so poorly that it hurts you, right? So here's the thing. She's a townsperson. So most of the times that she shows up, because you see her multiple times, she's at like street level with you. And so you can walk through her, but her notes are just flying out. So really, really hard to avoid. And we didn't mention this in visuals, but the blowback, like when you get hit, you go flying, right? The knockback is insane. So you have this really obnoxious visual that you have to deal with this really obnoxious mechanic. And it's supposed to be an off-key melody, but it's literally it's like she's singing like she's warming up with scales.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a warm up.
Yeah, so it's that, but like really off key. It's just it's offensive on like every level. Like it's annoying looking. It creates an annoying mechanic, and it sounds horrible. And while we're talking about annoying mechanics, let's start talking about all the annoying mechanics.
There's lots of them. So this is the best place where I can think to mention this, which is that I thought I had figured it out. Right, which is that in the first level, if you literally do nothing but hard walk right the entire time, do not jump, do not shiv, do not do anything, just walk, you will complete that level.
Well, okay, so the reason I'm questioning that is I was under the notion that enemy placement is random. And so it's either not random or in the first level it's random but low enough density that you could still accomplish that.
No, so that's the thing though, is that I think that you're right. So here's the thing is that I got through the whole first bit, right? Just walking straight forward. And I was like, maybe that's the real trick of the game, right? And what they're really trying to teach me is that like don't paddle against the stream of the current. It's like a Taoist metaphor, do not don't fight it, just go with it, right? So I was like, all right. And then I got about halfway through the graveyard stage, but I was already low on sanity. So then when I restarted, I got like 90% of the way through it, just by hammering forward, right? But I didn't jump over any of the dogs, right? So I was like, okay, if I just jump over the dogs, then I'll beat it. I'll beat it this time, And then I hit my 10%, 10%, 10% because the enemy placement is random. The bird poop is random. There is no, you think that there's a pattern to the bird poop. Like you're sitting there with, like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
crazy wall.
Yeah, we're like the bird poop. It's not random, man. It's predetermined. It's hard determinism where the bird poop is going to land, but it's not. It's the bird poop has free will, man. And so, so that's the problem. And that's the truly insane thing is that because the enemies are random and because the controls are so sluggish to response, right? That it just robs you of any real ability to play the game because it's not memorization, right? It's not practice because everything would have to be in the same place every time, right? And it's not improvisation because it doesn't. There's no way for you to know, or it doesn't telegraph, and you don't have the reflexes to respond fast enough. So it just becomes insanity.
Yeah, the idea that the game is a cursed object sent to drive us all mad is there's a lot of evidence to support that. So
it just keeps piling up.
I want to do something that we don't normally have to do or bother to spend the time on, but we do it sometimes, and I think this game warrants it, which is I want to really clearly explain one of the core game loops. I guess the core game loop. So as Jekyll, you are trying to, I kid you not, get to your wedding. And I know that because on stream, I was like, what am I even trying to do? The game didn't tell me. Why am I out for a walk? And somebody in chat was like, aren't you trying to go to a wedding? And I was like, that's dumb. You're dumb. And then I looked up the speed run for the game because I was curious. And I was like, oh, huh. You really are trying to go to your wedding.
So literally having drunk a potion that can, at some points in time, turn you into an insane person. And you are clearly teetering on the brink of insanity at all times. That seems like a good day to get married. That seems like that's good priorities.
Yeah. Yep. But so I want to explain this, right? You're walking right as Jekyll. Everything looks normal. And then if your sanity meter is reduced all the way down to W for Hyde, then you collapse and then you wake up as Hyde. And as Hyde, you automatically walk to the left. Everything is dark and scary. All the buildings are destroyed. There's all the demons, right? And you automatically walk to the left. And what I didn't know, because I couldn't figure it out at first, is if you make it as far left as Jekyll made it to the right, you get struck by lightning and immediately die. And it tells you in the manual that the reason that happens is because evil should not overcome good. Yeah. Okay. That's their explanation for why that happens. Anyway, while you're Hyde, if you murder enough demons, then you regain sanity and you will turn back into Jekyll. And you pick up exactly where you collapsed as Jekyll and you can proceed. So that core loop in a game that wasn't fundamentally broken in its design would actually be, I think, really interesting because this is a game that does not have lives, right? This game came out, I don't think I said this at the top of the hour. This game came out in April of 1988. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. I was a little insane.
But just put the bookmark in.
Yeah, there you go. So, this game came out in 1988, which means, like Mario existed, Mega Man existed, Zelda existed, well-made games existed. It's not like this game came out in the 70s, right? So try and imagine you sit down to make a video game and you're like, okay, we're not going to have lives. And so you can basically continue infinitely because we've created a failure spectrum where you turn into Hyde and then you can recover and turn back into Jekyll and continue the level. And I was like, oh, if it was in a different video game, that would be really cool. They also, when you die, and you're going to die infinity times, when you die on the start screen, there's start and continue. And when you continue, you always at least continue from the level you were in. Game has 6 levels. So if you make it all the way to level 6 and then you're just bang your head against it, there's no passwords or anything, but you can bang your head against that as long as you want, right? It will never throw you all the way back to the first level. So I want to give like a little bit of credit to them completely shucking the lives system and like the traditional continue password checkpoint system. So they basically built it into this Jekyll Hyde mechanic in a way that is like a Greek tragedy that they saw like one day lives are going to feel like an antiquated bit of stupidity in video games, and then just put the dumbest, worst design video game of all time around that insight.
So you know what this mechanic, this kind of game loop looks when it's done well. Fight for your life mode, Borderlands.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it looks like when it's done correctly, right? Because that's what it is, you know.
That's exactly what it is. You're totally right.
Yeah, is it, you know, like you drop and then all of a sudden it's way harder, right? Being Hyde is way harder, and you know, I mean, it's supposed to be way harder. You know, the enemies move faster. There's more of them. All of them hurt you. It's dark. It's scary. It's all sorts of stuff. But if you can get up, then you just get back up and you keep playing. And then if you lose entirely, it just punch you back a little bit of time, you know, which is what Borderlands does, is that if you fail in fight for your life mode, it just punch you back to your most recent respawn station, and it takes you like 30 seconds to get back to where the action was, you know? So that core game loop works really well. It works like 3 video games well, at least, you know? It works for like 1, 2, and 1.5 video games, you know?
No,
but,
there's a proper Borderlands 3. Yeah, so 4 video games.
4 video games. Yep. 4 video games all the way up to Borderlands 3. But yeah, so but yeah, I mean that's the thing that is just so infuriating is it's so, well, it's not even that close, but the idea, like the principle behind it is sound, you know?
Yeah. It's sound, and I think it shows they either tripped and fell into a good idea, or someone actually said like, do we really need lives? Like, don't we just want to let people keep playing the game? Right. Which eventually became the dominant mentality in video games, is like, why do we give them a good opportunity to turn the game off? What if we just let them keep playing the game? Right. And that's overwhelmingly the way, you know, most game design has gone. So I do want to like give them credit for that. I don't know if there's anything else about the mechanics or the design that could possibly be considered redeeming.
No. And this is a slight tangential story, but to your points that, like, you know, sometimes as far as like lives go in video games, I feel that lives were kind of, because before there were coins, right? And then they were like, well, we can't do coins, you know, so what are we going to do? Oh, we'll do lives. Okay, that makes sense. And then, you know, years went by and then the lives were always there. And it's definitely like the thing of, you know, all right, so, you know, we're going to remodel this whole area. We're going to move this, we're going to move that. The table's going to go right there. And then it's like, well, wait, why do we need a table there? It's like, well, because there's a table there. It's like, yeah, but why is there a table there? It's like, oh, well, you know, we used to have the TV on it. It's like, okay. Do we have the TV on it anymore? No. Why is the table there again? Because there's a table there. You know, like that's lives, right? So we did eventually get away from it. So yes, kudos to them for being some of the first people to be like, why is there a table there? But instead they said, I'm going to put a evil septopus monster. You know, it's like, what? That's not even a piece of furniture. Shh.
No, we just wanted to take the table away. Now something has to be there. And all I have are this table and this evil monster.
Evil septopus monster. It's not even an octopus. Not going to go, because that would make too much sense. Yeah, so no, basically all of the other mechanics of the game. Do we know, I apologize for not coming to the table fully prepared, but in order to understand this, I would have had to do research outside of the game. Do we know what coins do? I don't know what coins do.
Yes. I found out by accident, though, which is when you are... No, literally. So I happen to have dropped as Jekyll, successfully turned back from Hyde, and because you don't always collect coins when you're Hyde. Only certain enemies drop coins, which is another just bit of frustrating
and
nonsense.
Only sometimes.
I think... crap.
I was getting coins. I was getting coins from like the hunchback dudes, but not always.
Okay, yeah. So maybe it's only certain enemies and not all the time. But anyway, if you have enough coins, and I don't know how many, will one do it? Does it take 20? I have no idea. If you physically collide with the singing woman, it automatically pays her to stop singing.
Wow. That's a deep cut, man.
Yeah. So the notes, I mean, mechanically, it's actually really helpful because the notes are flying off of her like in an arc to her left and right. So she's not just a hazard as you're approaching her, she's also a hazard as you're walking away from her. So if you have coins, and like I said, it auto pays her to stop, then that is actually like mechanically relatively useful. But of course, bad conveyance, you don't know that that's what the coins do. You lose your coins when you die, and you could presumably accidentally jump over her because she seems like an obstacle, right? Some people hurt you and her notes hurt you. You have no reason to just assume that if you collide with her, you won't take damage and that you'll pay her to stop singing. I looked through the manual because I just had to. I don't remember if it says in there that you can pay her to stop. Maybe it does, but even so, like the game could also maybe tell you that.
Right. And it's just so bizarre that out of all of the mobs in this game, they built an entire mechanic around this one, like if the money had many uses, one of them being to pay this woman to stop. And, maybe there's a shop, maybe there's not. Even if there's not a shop, even if it was like, you can use the coins in a number of different ways, but basically all of them de-aggro mobs, you can pay the townspeople to stop shooting slingshots at you, like you can throw the coins at dogs to make them go away. You can throw the coins at cats to make them into Meowth, like you can do all kinds of different stuff, right? Then that would make sense. But it's so odd that literally 1/3 of the information presented to you in your HUD is your ability to pacify this one enemy.
That I think shows up less than half a dozen times across the entirety of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, I can't even wrap my mind around that decision. To make an entire mechanic around one mob. Wow. Impressed. I am impressed.
Dude, it's just, I want to paraphrase Ego Raptor, because he said, and again, I'm gonna paraphrase him. Everyone should play this game if they wanted to get into game design, or if you're a game critic and it's spooky month. Those are the only two reasons, because I'm realizing that your my headcanon describes the game as a video game. Your headcanon includes the fact that the video game exists in like actual reality, because
the players are part of the art.
Yeah, because I can feel my will to live just draining out of me the longer we've been talking about this, because it's staggering that this product exists, because you compared it at the top of the show to Superman 64, and I don't think that that's an apt analogy, and here's why. Superman 64 is broken. This game is designed to work this way. It is operating as intended. It is just a catastrophically bad design. All of the enemies, once you realize what all the insane rules are, they always work that way, with the notable exception that damage seems to be kind of random. I couldn't find any kind of pattern there, but like slow moving people never hurt you. Fast moving people always do. You have a cane, but as far as I can tell, it does absolutely nothing. Like you can like poke as Jekyll with a cane, but it doesn't do anything. It's like his duck animation. It's totally pointless. The bird poop always hurts you. The jumping, terrifying noise cat always hurts you, right? Like, so there are rules and they all work all of the time, right? It's not like, oh, well, the hitbox on this is broken when there's too many enemies on screen because the processor couldn't handle it. Like, there's nothing that I experienced in my playthrough, short of one little weird place that I clipped off the edge of the platform. There's nothing that I experienced in my playthrough that I would say is broken. It's a bad design, right? And the difference is, like, if someone makes, if they put the wrong ingredients into a stew and then they give it to you and you're like, oh God, why does this taste like this? And they're like, oh no, I used sugar, but I thought it was salt and it's not supposed to have all of that sugar in it. I'm sorry that it tastes like crap. That's a broken design. If someone puts in a bucket and hands you a bucket of, and then you're like, oh, this is disgusting. And they're like, correct.
Yes. It's supposed to taste that way. It's what it is it's actually that gun where the barrel points at you, you know? Because I mean, it's designed that way. It's just it's bad design. Like they were like, and again, the core game loop, the idea of, you know, having a failure spectrum and saying like, okay, well, as Dr. Jekyll, you will move towards your goal, and as Mr. Hyde, you will move away from it, and as you fail, you become Hyde, you know, like that. It's awesome, you know. Sorry, I was just thinking of like a Hulk game that could work similarly, but inverted, you know, in the sense of like, you know, your job as the Hulk would be to stay the Hulk. So, you know, you would actually want to take a certain amount of damage, because if you know, expend too much energy without getting angry, then you would become Banner, you know, and then have to like run around as Banner in your failure state until you get angry again or whatever, something like that. Like the concept, especially considering the work that they're dealing with, you know, like the narration, the story, it's great, but then it just completely perfectly, and that's where the headcanon comes in, is it perfectly fails in execution, you know? It is a masterclass in what not to do, you know? And it, again, just like I said, with the gimme points and Ticket to Ride, like that takes effort. It takes effort for it to be this bad. How did they do that? And they had to have done it on purpose.
So man, I'm done. Like
there's more to say, but I mean, again, like there's more stuff to nitpick about, but the game is just so fundamentally broken. It's like, I don't know, like it's
not broken. It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's not broken. It's bad.
Correct. Right. I've been using those interchangeably. I should not. It's so fundamentally designed poorly.
Usually they go together.
Yeah, they do. Normally it's like, it's bad, it's broken. And it's like, no, this is intentional.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to share with you, because I said this to a few other people, but I don't think I actually said this to you yet, is and I'm not, this is going to sound sarcastic. I am being 100% genuine. I am glad we didn't play this game sooner, because I would not have had the game design literacy, not just the player literacy, but the game design literacy to understand what was wrong with this game. Like if we had played this in year one, or God help us, in like the first 3 months, like I would have just said it was broken. I would have been like, oh, it's a broken game. It's dumb and stupid, and everybody likes it. It's dumb and stupid. But it truly is the ultimate like counter example. And it's like, oh, what's a good video game? Here's the original Super Mario Brothers. It's not perfect, but it does so many things right that decades later, we're still holding it up as this paragon of good game design, right? It's like, oh, what's the opposite of that? Well, just drink this potion and I will show you.
So, I mean, do we even have to hold up?
Okay, so we can, I don't know how long we want to drag this debate out, but you have lamented a few times recently that it's, you know, we have a 3-point voting system.
Yeah.
And so
to say it requires nostalgia goggles, like, isn't fair to other things we said require nostalgia goggles.
Yes, I want to go on record as saying like nostalgia goggles required, because maybe you did enjoy this game as a kid, and maybe you actually could. You'll remember playing it with your favorite cousin who you don't see anymore because they live on the other side of the country now, and so like you won't enjoy the game, but it will like bring up those nostalgia feelings in you. Like that's not an impossible thing, right? People do that with bad movies and bad TV shows and bad music and stuff all the time. So I will go on record as saying nostalgia goggles required, but I came really close to just being like, no, I don't even want to rate this piece of crap. Like it's not right. Like it, because you could make a strong argument that it's so bad that it is beyond like no amount of love and affinity for this game as a child. You might have love and affinity for like things that were around, like Maybe you were eating your favorite cereal while you're on summer vacation playing this game, and so you have fond memories of the cereal.
So it's almost like nostalgia blindness in the sense that like you would have to have had experienced this when you had sight and then cease to be able to experience that particular thing anymore, right? You know, like so. Yeah, so it's like in order to enjoy this
nostalgia
game,
goggles that aren't like rose tinted. They're just painted red, so you cannot see through them.
Yeah, like I think that it's kind of like saying, you know, in like a beauty contest, like if you've got like a, you know, like a 1 and a 10 and then like a rock, you know, it's like this is not a human. Like I can't put it on my spectrum, you know, like it's not one of these things is not like the others. So yeah, no, agreed. Obviously, you know, the worst possible rating. It is a masterclass in what not to do in game design. Especially like I think that I was really happy that you said like the failure spectrum thing because I hadn't really thought of it that way. But again, it's interesting to see like in Borderlands where it's like, oh, so this is doable. This idea is sound. It's just then if you literally perfectly execute poorly on the execution, you will get Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde the game. And I can't say for sure that putting the controller down was the sweetest moment of them all.
The curtain falls, the music plays, the credits roll, then it all fades to black. And you're left by yourself. The fanfare is gone. There's no player 2 there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again what you've lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less on how you saved the day than on all the experience gained. At the end of it all, gamers play what we play, not for game over, but rather for what we take away. The world is sad, but who cares? We both know that that's not what you came for. Your next adventure already in sight. You're all set to go. You're excited to see what's all wrong till it's right and the world is saved. So you're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the ride. You're more along for the
That's just give me 90 minutes of just.
That should totally be it, man. Like, just, that's just they cue it up. It's like the world is saving. That's like the whole thing, and there's no Hi Lions, Hi George, none of that. Just straight into farts for an hour and a half, and then just end credits.
It'd be. See, we should have done this for April Fools instead of Halloween, yeah. And then we could do 90 minutes farts.
Just farts. Oh, Sorry, I get the giggles out now.
We're all sillies now. Hey, George.
Hey, Lions. You son of a bitch.